Latin Mass affects me deeply, deeply.
How come?
Because it feels like they're not selling me a car. And when I go to some Mass with the guitars and stuff, and I'm from, Santa Ynez, right? So that's where I was catechized. And there's a lot of guitar playing, and there's a lot of what feels like they're trying to sell me on an idea.
Yeah.
Whereas what I feel when I went to Oakland and went to and by the way, there's a very incredible version of that as well that's super activating and very emotional that I've experienced up there with Father Bobby. There's also, and Father Peter, but there's also this something that happened, Christ the King in Oakland does a Latin Mass every day of the week. And it feels like it's not being done to sell me on anything. And it feels almost like I'm being let in on something very special. And the quiet, it activates something in me where it feels like I found something. It's a little bit like a band. When a band is pushed on you, it doesn't feel the same way as you finding it. When you find it, then you root for it. It feels like this special thing that you found, and you protect it, and you hold it, and it's yours. When somebody's selling me on something, it somehow takes it kills my aptitude for it, and my suspension of disbelief, and my yearnings to root for it.
I get it.
There's an immediate rebellion in me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I get that. You're hitting different dimensions of it, because you might say the shadow side of the older form was it became too much of a theater performance, and the audience is just kind of sitting there taking it in. Where what all the liturgical reform people wanted, this is way back in the 40s and 50s, was this full, conscious, active participation. So that the congregation is not like just watching a show, but we're involved. You say the give and take and so on. But then the shadow side of the other approach, I think you're right in saying I can feel too put upon, like they're, as you say, trying to sell me something.
Yes.
And, so trying to find that organic rhythm.
Because you don't want to be exclusive either.
No, right.
Which is what Latin Mass feels like sometimes. It feels like I have to know Latin to experience it. But however, I would also say that there's certain language where I don't need to know the words.
Yeah.
Which is what I feel when I watch Pio's Mass.
Yeah.
I know what's going on, and I feel it deeply. It almost feels more powerful than when I know every single word. It takes me out of the realm of the intellectual, and it puts me squarely in the realm of the feeling, and the beauty thing that you talk about. And I do, as a person who's involved in the arts, to deny some of the senses, it heightens some of the others. So when you put me in this rationalistic, logical, word, plot, it takes me out of the feeling realm.
Yeah.
Whereas Latin Mass puts me squarely in the feeling realm because I can't argue the word, because I don't know what the word means.
Yeah.
So I'm just left with this feeling that feels sacred and connected. And really what hindered I was never an atheist. I was always an agnostic, even when I was a Sam Harris, TED Talk, Christopher Hitchens guy, which is who I was before I fell in. I always had a belief, but I never had a connection. Latin Mass gave me something where I felt connected, which took me out of belief into connection. Belief kept me, I had belief because that's the rational, logical. It's not logical or rational to be atheist. If you really go deep enough, you get to the Big Bang, and then you're screwed again. You have to account for it somehow, which puts you in a belief situation.
Right.
But too much of that logic and too much of that rationale takes me out of feeling, which takes me out of connection.
As you saw there, Shia LaBeouf was deeply impacted by the Latin Mass. And I thought this was very interesting, especially to happen on Bishop Barron's platform. How neat it was for Shia LaBeouf to highlight this and to keep going back to it. One thing I found interesting is that Bishop Barron, I wouldn't say fight back, but respond and kind of critique and be like, yeah, both are good. And Shia LaBeouf kept going back to the Latin Mass. You'll see a clip right after this, but I do want to give props to Bishop Barron. He could have cut this out totally. I'm sure a bunch of people are like, oh, look, Latin Mass is so great. In your face, Bishop Barron. But I'm very grateful he let Shia LaBeouf say his word and gave this a platform, because tens of thousands of people have already seen this, and I'm sure many more will. He is now Catholic, thanks be to God. And I think what he says here really highlights an important thing, which is one of the reasons that I love Latin Mass. Please like and share this video, and definitely watch the full interview with Bishop Barron.
What's happening when you're watching a really good movie beyond just entertainment?
Yeah, you're activated. It's probably why Mass has changed. The Mass has changed because there was a yearning to activate the public in an artificial way. I would say, I mean, listen, I'm not no expert on any of this, but it feels like this bureaucratic activation, like rules were set or a change happened in the tradition from Latin Mass to the Mass that you now receive at a traditional Catholic church. It's almost as though the church is trying almost from the office activate the audience without putting the agency on the priest.
We have full, conscious, active participation. That's
Which is where the
line of
singing and the
Vatican
back
II.
and forth comes
Right.
from. Whereas old Latin Mass put all the agency on the priest to be fully activated. And that activation of the priest was supposed to activate the audience, activate the laity. That all the agency was put on the priest. And so, and I don't want to get too far into this because then you get into controversy, but